Welcome folks to this module on missed approaches. I previously had a PowerPoint on missed approaches, and in this particular session I want to show you a dual channel ILS approach with a missed approach. This first one will be in VFR conditions down to 50 feet. The next one that I'll do, I'll have the weather set such that we get down to 50 feet and go missed approach. So we'll have two presentations with this module. In the PowerPoint presentation, I mentioned that there's a number of different software setups on individual fleets and individual aircraft within your fleet. In this case, by making a dual channel approach, which has the ability to auto land, unlike the other approach that I showed you, what is most important that I want to convey is how important it is to, when you get to a missed approach point and you go missed approach, number one, make sure that you get the toga button. Remember, it's down deep, and you've got to really make sure that you engage it in the tension of the moment. Secondly, at the same time, I'm looking at my respective PFD and I want to see that the FMA has gone to toga in the pitch window, and in this case with the auto throttles remaining engaged and one of the channels of the autopilot remaining engaged, it's going to be automatic. With the auto throttles on, you're going to feel the power come up. Let it come up, and you'll notice it comes up at a nice moderate but firm rate. And I'm also looking for is GA in the auto throttle and speed window. Now in this case here, this is an older version of the software. This is an approach with a RNAV missed approach. So what I'm going to do is point out here that in the more updated versions of the software, the pitch window will have a white LNAV armed below the green vortex, and it'll have a white toga underneath the glide slope. In this case, we don't have that. So you'll notice when we go missed approach, that roll window is going to remain blank, and as you're going to go around, make sure that you fill that in, because you want to monitor that FMA. The other thing that you want to make sure that you see when you hit toga is see the pitch bar on your PFD come up to about 15 degrees, and now you know that you have a very positive missed approach underway. You've broken the glide slope lock and you're now in another mode. That's most important, especially when you get down in those real low areas where you have to go missed approach. The other thing that I pointed out a couple times previous to this is when you are in your respective seat, left or right, please get in the habit of having an attitude of looking to both sides of the cockpit for information. And ideally what you should have between the two of you have different presentations of the nav display, have different FMC pages up. The two most critical, in my opinion, is the legs page on the non-flying pilot side and the descent page on the pilot side to monitor the glide path at the same time you're monitoring the glide slope. And remember, gang, when you got the autopilot on, I don't have to be having a fixation at PFD. I really need to have a good cross-check going. Another reminder for the pilot monitoring of the pilot not flying. When you get below 1,000 feet, start looking outside. Remember we talked about how important it is with visibilities where they may vary. If I have an opportunity to pick up a visual cue prior to minimums, I want to see that. I want to convey that. Rather than just stay inside the cockpit till you get near minimums and then look out. So in any case, use your airline procedures and make the appropriate calls, make the appropriate responses. And the other thing that I really want to remind you, especially when you go through training, but out there in the real world too, be geared to going missed approach. Flyer approach, and if you get in, fine. Be prepared to review the missed approach procedure in your mind as you make an approach. So okay, let's get started here. We're approaching the final approach fix. We'll get the landing gear down, we'll get the flaps configured, and we'll get that second channel of the autopilot engaged. Notice I do not have the missed approach altitude set here yet, but we have the appropriate speed for 5 degrees of flaps, which we have, and we've got glide slope capture. Let's go ahead and get going. Now again, good cross checks here. Now what I'm looking at, when I get to about 3 miles, I'm going to put the gear down, the landing gear down, and go to flaps 15. Approach is looking good. I have one autopilot engaged. I will engage the second one when we get to the final approach fix. Your airline procedure may be different. Just comply with your procedures when it comes to the operation of your respective aircraft and your procedures. I'd really like to go ahead and change some of the nav display presentations here. I'll do it again, but I'm going to put the landing gear down. We're going to go to flaps 15. I'm going to set my speed bug to 15. And then just prior, what I'm going to do is go to flaps 40. So we'll go to flaps 30. I'm going to use 30 in this case. I'll set my speed at the ref. I'm near the final approach fix with glide slope capture. I'll probably cross-check the altitude as I go across the final approach. So now I'm going to engage the second autopilot. I'm going to set the missed approach altitude. Those are previous procedures in my world. Yours may be different, but notice now I have a command and I have a flare. Both autopilots are engaged. The bit check has been Notice that my flight path angle and vertical bearing, I have a glide path that very much coincides with my glide slope. So cross-check all this information. I want to cross-check that I've got the flaps set at 30. One thing that I did not do here, and I'm not going to do because I don't have controls that are easy to get to, I don't have a speed brake armed here. So now I realize I'm going to have to manually extend the speed brakes if we land. Your respective airline will probably have calls during this approach or other procedures that you'll be complying with along the way. Okay, we're starting to get down in the down and dirty area. We're looking good on the glide slope. We notice when we get to 100 feet that we've got some indications going on here now, 40 feet, and I'm going to hit go. We're back on and we're getting ready to go missed approach. Recording is on and we're tracking normal presentation. Reconfirming that I have a flare arm, I have both autopilots engaged, I have flaps at my final configuration. Just go ahead and cross-check a lot of those things. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't have the speed brake armed here, so I need to be aware of that for manual extension of the speed brake if needed when I land. We're getting down here. We're going to see the runway at 200 feet start to move up. I'll lose the bull bar. This is going to go a green flare. Okay, I went go around. I have GA, toga, and I have a pitch bar up. I'm going to, at that time, call for flaps 15, so we'll retract the flaps to flaps 15. And we have now power has come up and we're underway on a go-around. Generally, you're going to keep this configuration after you raise the landing gear, which I just did, and you'll keep this configuration till minimum obstacle clearance. Now, notice I have a blank here. What is missing? I can see here that I've got a RNAV course. I'll engage LNAV. LNAV is engaged. Now it'll start to fly. It'll come over and intercept. When I get to a point where I can start to retract the flaps, we'll go ahead and retract more flaps to 5. And you can do this automatically because with the dual auto channel, what you can do is retract the flaps without setting speed. So I'm going to continue to retract the flaps from 5 to 1. Notice how the speed bug will move out as the flaps are being retracted. I'm LNAV, toga. I'm going to bring the flaps up now, and we're heading out to a missed approach. Now I'm going to fly the missed approach in this case because I want to illustrate something to you. I can see here that we're still in a go-around mode. This is going to automatically switch to a climb mode. Let me go over here to climb. I didn't have that set up. But I mentioned earlier, go across the top here at this point, because you want to put the autopilot on, and you already had it engaged because that was part of the dual channel approach. So I have my speed set, but what I want to do is go into VNAV. I want to see LNAV. I've turned my FMC into the speed control and over to the computer here for speed. Now notice it's accelerating because it's going up to 10,000 feet. And I don't necessarily want that to happen because I'm going to a hold. So I can go ahead and set my speed back with speed intervention and stay in VNAV. Now notice what's happening here. See this point where it says decel? Now if you're below 10,000 feet, it's only going to go to 250 knots based on the FMC. But now this is going to slow back to the 251 knots that I have set here. And notice I'm really cross-checking things here because I want to have my heading bug set properly. But the reason I want to get the autopilot back on, which it stayed on, but I want to get into VNAV, LNAV if I have an RNAV missed approach with the autopilot on, and everything is going to be taken care of automatically. Now notice it's out here at that 250 knot speed, but when we get to the decel, it's automatically going to slow to a speed that is appropriate for holding, the holding speed. So using your auto system, your mode control panel properly, you can just sit back and take a drag on your cigarette because this thing is going to do it all for you. Anytime you can, the autopilot shows us how it should be done manually at the start of a missed approach. So if you don't have auto throttles on or you don't have the, okay, now I want to mention something here. Again, why cross-checks are so important. I noticed my speed didn't come back. Why? Because I still have speed intervention. I want to close that window so the speed will come back to what the holding speed is, my FMC on a cruise pace, because we're at a cruise altitude. So notice now that it's slowing down as we go into the hold. But the thing that I was talking about is when you make a manual missed approach, if you make it with auto throttle disengages and the yoke, you have to fly the aircraft, get your toga, get your proper presentations, bring the power up with your hand and kind of make it good and firm, but don't slam it up to the stop. Just gradually bring it up where you have just a little bit of a crook in your elbow. And later on you can check to see if you're around 87, 90% below 2,500 feet. If you're above that, you might be a little bit higher for power. Get your flaps retracted after you see that you're in a toga, go around mode, and then retract the gear and the flaps on schedule and per your procedure. Once you do get up to a flaps cleaned up altitude, just either double check your autopilot is on and then go across the mode control panel from left to right, get into a VNAV mode if it's an RNAV a missed approach, an LNAV if it's an RNAV missed approach, and you're at the proper altitude. So, gang, this is important to do it the way the autopilot does. If you follow this in terms of how the autopilot handles the flying, how it handles the power, and how it handles flaps retracting on schedule, and how once you get going to the holding pattern, you set it up to just fly it automatically, it's a breeze. And I really encourage you to learn to fly the airplane in any mode the way the autopilot does. So we're going to go into hold here. I'll go ahead and end this module, and the next one, what I'm going to do is an abbreviated portion where we will do an approach and a missed approach with weather at 50 feet. We're now making this approach with the weather set down near minimums. We're going to go missed approach anyway, but at least this will be in weather conditions and a little bit more realistic for going around at 50 feet. We've got landing gear down. We're going to set the flaps coming to 30 on 1,000 feet. We've got both autopilots engaged. We've got command. We've got flare arm. Generally, we need that as we go through this 1,000 feet. Cross-check both sides. Cross-check. Everything is set the way that you would want it. Cross-check the flaps are in the correct position. The landing gear down. The speed brake arm. And here's where you want to be ready with your finger for a missed approach. Make sure you get that toga button. Don't miss the toga button. If you don't get it, hit it again so that you get the proper indication. Quick. So here we're getting down in the dirt, 50 feet, go around. Okay, and notice how the pitch bar is coming up. I've got go around toga. The power is coming up. I'm going to call for flaps retraction to 15 degrees. I got to climb. I'm going to raise the landing gear. So now we're underway. And notice my speed bug has moved up to allow me to go to flaps 5, and it's done that automatically. Now notice I do not have a roll mode. I know that I have LNAV available to me on an RNAV approach. I select LNAV. It's engaged here. I'm going to continue to bring the flaps up to 5. As I see they're coming up, and I'm coming up to flaps up. We're on our way on a missed approach. Take my heading bug and move it over. And in this case here, if you wanted to go to heading and then arm LNAV so that it engages a course, but it'll automatically do it. So get yourself, as you get up here and you're settled, I want to see that my auto throttles are on. I want to select VNAV for speed and altitude control. In the computer, I have LNAV engaged and I have my missed approach altitude set. I see that I'm on my way. I'd go ahead and take my speed brake and disarm it. I'd probably take my auto brakes and turn those off as well. So I'm cross-checking the cockpit to get things set up properly for the configuration of the aircraft. I'm not spending any time just looking at my PFD alone. We're continuing on this missed approach. Now notice what's going to happen when we get to 10,000 feet. If I want to preclude that from accelerating out that fast, I can preempt setting 250. So I just had speed intervention. It's already at speed 250. It'll stay there. It won't accelerate like it did in the previous example that I gave you. Now what I want to do is take a look at my map. I want to take and set my nav display properly to see what's out in front of me. I'll put it out there further to get the holding pattern. I want to see that decel point and be sure that it is going to decel at that point to a holding speed. So gang, use all the tools available to you. Nothing like the auto. It does it a great job. You have to monitor it and make sure that it does. If you have any kind of glitch with it, well then of course you disengage it and you fly it manually. But manually fly the airplane like the autopilot flies it. Hope this has been a helpful exercise for you and insight for you on missed approaches. As I mentioned earlier in the session that we had on the PowerPoint, it is one of the most difficult maneuvers in training because people don't understand what you get on your FMA. They don't understand what they need to be looking to see that they get in a go-around mode. With this aircraft, very often, if you're not really conscious of it, as you get down around minimums, you don't have your finger around that toga button, chances are there's 50-50 chance you're going to miss it. So make sure that you are reviewing what the missed approach procedure is as you are making the early part of the approach, and be ready to do it in a timely manner, making sure that you get broken out of the glide slope indication to a toga indication, which is going to give you the proper pitch to go to if you're manually flying. If you don't have the auto throttles on, then what you're going to do is bring your power up to a point that isn't full power. Don't go full power unless you've got some obstacle terrain that you're dealing with and the procedure calls for it. I'll just get up to around anywhere between 88 and 90%. Gang, I hope this helps. Good luck. This is going to be one of the maneuvers that I hope by the time you get to end the training, it's going to be a piece of cake for you. God bless you all.